Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCollum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about the start of the new DCU, of the new DC film universe.
The DC New?
DC
Should we
New,
call it?
more like it.
Oh, take that, DCU, which is your official title, because it used to be called the DCEU.
Yeah.
So now they got rid of the E.
They cut out the extraneous letter. And to be fair, it was extraneous.
He didn't need it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they just...
That's what the E stood for. Extraneous.
I mean, it was extended, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
so
yeah, but I'm in my
you're making a jest.
in my mocking tone.
Oh, I see, sir.
With my jocular attitude.
If I may bounce off your jocular attitude, yeah, I assume they just didn't want to copy MCU in its entirety, but they're like, you know what, never mind.
It works. People know what a universe is.
That's just up for grabs.
Yeah.
So we're the DC New.
It's the DC New, the new DCU, headed by James Gunn. This is the first project under their new creative direction, which we'll certainly talk about. But yes, today on the episode we're talking about Creature Commandos, and we're going to be discussing the entire first season. So we're going to be talking about the entirety of season 1 of Creature Commandos. Since it is a new television show, anytime that we discuss a new TV show or movie, we always give a spoiler-free review. So in case you're on the fence about watching it, unsure if it's worth your time, or just want a taste of the episode before you finish watching it, we will give you a spoiler-free review. Then once you hear the theme music, that's when we will be entering the spoiler-filled section. So to start with the simple, the spoiler-free review, the usual question, Diana, did you like it?
I did not like it, but I will try to be as unbiased in this as I can when I say I did not like it, because our question is, did you like it? And I didn't. It really might not even be bad, but I personally, absolutely did not like this. This is the spoiler-free review, but I think it's a thing that people need to know before they watch it. There is a lot of problematic sexual content in here that I did not enjoy. 4 out of 7 episodes had sexual stuff that made me uncomfortable and I didn't think was any fun and really sucked. So I'm just going to say that off the top. I think that really sucked. On top of that, it's complicated but also boring and nothing happens, just story-wise. I think it's not great. I think there are some positives though. I think the animation's great. I think the montages and the transitions are really, really fun. All the music's really good. There are some phenomenal voice performances here. David Harbour and Adira Varma specifically are just absolutely crushing it, both the Frankensteins. So there's some redeeming qualities, but overall I just hate the story. The things I do like aren't there enough. Like I like the flashbacks a lot, but it's kind of just doesn't connect to anything or work all that well as a story overall. So yeah, overall, I didn't like it, but it has redeeming qualities, but I really did not enjoy watching most of this show. And then the things I did like just disappeared, so that sucked. But that's me, so I'm going to get ready for some hard opinions, folks, on this one once we get into the spoiler-filled section. Andrew, did you like Creature Commandos?
I think that this is good.
Okay.
I'm going to give it that I think that it's good. Did I personally enjoy it? No.
We are on the exact same page here.
We're on a very same page, but I will probably, I think, give it a little bit more credit. I do think it might be, I'm going to say that this is closer to academically good in many regards. I think it might be academically good, and it does not unlock the place where I keep joy in my heart. So I didn't enjoy watching it. I don't think I would ever rewatch it. But do I think they executed it well? In many regards, I think, yes, I do agree with you that the animation and voice cast, I think that I agree with you, there is some problematic aspects of the writing. I would be a little bit more kind on the writing as a whole, where I actually do think the general structure and the episodic thing, I think it works for how they explore each member of the crew and what the overarching seasonal arc is. I think that the writing is a little bit more functional than you're giving it credit for, or at least in my opinion. So I think that in many regards, it is academically good, and I still didn't enjoy it, but I'm going to be a little bit kinder on it. I think partially because when I'm watching a show or a movie, I like to think like, who is this made for a lot of the times, to try to be fair to it, to be like, who is this for? And while watching this, I'm like, there is a version of Andrew that did really love this show at the right time in my life, the right year, the right moment. I know that there is a version of me who's telling all of my friends to watch this show because I really sincerely, unabashedly loved this show. It's not me today. But I do know that all of the multiverse anodes of me, like there is versions that exist of me that love this show. So I'm going to have a tough time hating on it too hard because I do think that there is someone that this is for and there is someone that this really connects with. And I think that person is also exactly who they intended this show to be for as well. This show was made for Andrew at 21.
Okay, yeah.
And I think they did that looking for that guy, and they successfully made the show for that guy.
I see all your points, and I'm probably not even going to disagree with any of them. I think maybe it is academically pretty good, but also I don't like it, and I think there is an audience for this. I'm going to be probably harsher on this show than it deserves because they purposely have made it the introduction to the DCU, which sets the tone for the entire universe. And I think that's a huge mistake.
There is a broader conversation that I'm very excited to have there that definitely involves some spoilers. But yes, I absolutely agree with you. I'm very excited to talk about what is going on there. And that is going to be definitely a bigger complaint of mine.
Because if this show came out and we were on the third or fourth DCU movie, I'd just be like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's for the teens. It's for the edgelords. But like to be like, this was our chosen introduction. I'm like, I'm gonna tear it apart. and you've walked into this one, James Gunn. So, but I think your points are all very valid, and I can see the reasoning behind them, and I don't even disagree.
Yeah, and I'm with you on everything you say as well. I think that we're like, I think we see things slightly differently, but I see where you're seeing them.
Wow, this is gonna be an interesting episode.
Yeah, but there's some stuff I'm so excited to talk about, dunk on, some kind stuff, but some things that are like, I'm sincerely...
You look like you're shaking
I'm sincerely actually very excited to have the conversations we're going to have on this episode because it's ones that I've wanted to have with you, but we try to save it for the podcast.
We try to save it, and it's been a weekly release, so it's been like 2 months of like, we can't have this conversation
can't do
yet.
It. And can it be spoiled?
Yeah, it can be spoiled.
I also agree that it can be spoiled.
Yeah, there's definitely spoilies here.
Yeah, both in big and small contexts.
Yeah,
There's spoilers. There is spoilers here.
Yeah, it's the start of the DC New.
All right. Start of the DC New. There will be spoilers, and we're kind of mixed on this. It's academically good, perhaps. For us,
are you 21-year-old Andrew listening from the multiverse?
You know what I mean?
You're gonna love it.
Like, yeah, it's yeah. So it's complicated.
Are you James Gunn currently?
Are you James Gunn currently or me at 21? There's a lot of crossover in that Venn diagram, which is a strange thing. And I'm not trying to judge too much anyone who likes it, because to judge them would be to judge myself, but which is something I'm willing to do, to be frank. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it all. Let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk about Season 1 of Creature Commandos. All right, a strong, interesting energy off the top.
Oh, where are we gonna go? We gonna jive? We gonna stick and move? We gonna positive? We gonna negative?
I would say before we go into some bigger picture dunks, which I think we have some like, let's dunk on this, let's pick it apart, let's talk about some of our issues. I think like let's start being kind a little bit off the top.
I'm okay with that.
Phenomenal cast. Let's just throw that down. I feel like no one's going to pick a fight on the other side of this. A phenomenal cast.
A phenomenal cast who is doing a phenomenal job, which isn't always the same thing.
I absolutely
Especially
agree.
when you've hired pretty much entirely face actors.
Yes.
This can be very much like, this person's an incredible actor, but they're not an incredible voice actor. But pretty much everyone is absolutely crushing this. David Harbour is over the moon good as
Yes.
Frankenstein. I think he's absolutely wonderful. I'm really surprised how good Indira Varma is as the bride, because I've only seen her face acting. I didn't even know. I don't know if she normally does voiceover.
I think I've heard her in some video games. She's not a stranger to voiceover, but similar to you, I'm definitely more familiar with her being on camera.
Yeah, I've liked her in things, and I loved her as the bride.
She
this
is
character
owning
slaps.
the bride.
Yes, this is actually probably the best written character in the show, and like just a killer performance of just like she feels so badass, she feels so powerful, but not like Mary Sue, like overpowered and everyone has to like me kind of like lead female character. Just a really cool, genuine badass who's over it, but also gets it. A very like Guardians of the Galaxy-esque, like, I live in the galaxy. I don't want it to explode, except the opposite, because she doesn't really care if the world explodes, but she makes sense.
Yeah.
And she's crushing this performance.
She makes sense. She's hit tonally. She knows who this character is. And I'm even going to say, like, this character is in a real sweet spot for a good actor like herself to come in and really own it, because it's in this sweet spot of it is a character that general popular culture is familiar with, but has not been iconically portrayed in a level where you are trying to live up to one person. It's an unclaimed parking spot. It is something waiting to be owned, but we all know that someone belongs there. And she has shown up and I think really taken ownership of it really quickly to be like, yeah, that's it. That's what this character sounds like. That's the tone that you have. That's the like reluctant kind of like shit-eating grin. That's the like, I don't have friends, but we can hear that you're making a friend. The like, you're lying to yourselfness of the performance. It's it. That's the bride. That is the bride.
Yes, you have absolutely nailed it, and I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, everyone knows who the Bride of Frankenstein is, at least visually, but no one really has a voice to her, unless it's like the crazy, like, brains Frankenstein voice that also, I don't know if the bride also does that. But yeah, if anyone ever plays the bride again after that, this is the performance to live up to.
Yeah.
This is an ideal.
Yeah, it's an ideal, and it's just a great opportunity for an actor to be given an ideal that like
an unclaimed property is such an interesting way to phrase this. I love this.
Yeah, just unclaimed, waiting for someone to come in and just.
Do you want to be the iconic bride of Frankenstein? She did.
Yeah,
she nailed it.
Yeah, I think she really does step in and nail it. And then just like a top-down kind of phenomenal cast listing, like Alan Tudyk. There's not really. I don't think we've ever criticized him.
There's nothing to criticize.
There's nothing.
He's a perfect actor.
We've legitimately. Now that I think about it, I don't think we've ever criticized Alan Tudyk.
No, there's nothing. He's comedically great. The few times he does like drama, amazing. Voiceover work, he's done enough now that I consider him a voiceover actor, not just a face actor. So whenever he does voice stuff,
I consider him actually more of a voice actor than a face actor.
I think because I was introduced to him in Knight's Tale. Many years ago. So I feel like I've been with Alan Tudyk for like 2 decades.
Interesting.
But like whenever I think of him, I'm like Knight's Tale and Alan Tudyk, face actor. But he's also done so much voice work now that he definitely is a voice actor as well.
Yeah, I think of him almost as a Mark Hamill, where I'm like, you're a voice actor who accidentally got an iconic camera role. That's what I kind of think of you as.
As the fifth lead in A Knight's Tale.
As the fifth lead, I think of him more as Firefly, but I understand what you're saying.
I forgot about Firefly.
I was just kind of glancing past the Knight's Tale of it all.
I never glanced past the Knight's Tale of it all.
Yes, but I think of him more as a voice actor. But yeah, I sincerely think, you know, he has been in projects that are not always the best, but I don't think we've ever criticized him on this podcast.
No, I mean, the only reason we ever used to watch Resident Alien was because of him. Like, he just nailed that show, that performance. He's always so good.
Yep.
I mean, I haven't seen Moana, but I know he plays just a chicken, and I'm like, should I watch Moana?
Was he the Moana chicken, or was he the Chicken Run chicken?
No, he's the Moana chicken.
Moana chicken, okay.
Yeah, no, he's not a name. He's not a title chicken.
Damn.
He's just a side chicken.
He's hot shit.
Making walk
K2SO. K2SO.
A very nice mix of like
Danger Boat as well on The Tick. He was Danger Boat.
Andrew's just pulling these guys. He's not looking at IMDb.
I'm not even looking at
Andrew's
his IMDb.
Just remembering
I pulled Danger Boat.
He's just having fond Alan Tudyk memories come to him.
Yeah. Yeah. But a phenomenal top to bottom cast. I do think like a special consideration goes out to David Harbour, who you mentioned, I think, in the spoiler free of being very good. He is very good. This Frankenstein is kind of fun. It has some of the problematic stuff, so it's not quite in the sweet spot as The Bride is. But he's playing it really well, and he's been cast as these type of characters several times. He was cast as Hellboy.
And he's the Red Guardian.
He's the Red Guardian, which is also in
Thunderbolts.
that like himbo energy, which this Frankenstein is problematic himbo.
Yeah. I'm the bad guy, but I'm not fully bad.
Yeah.
He's really walking that line in all of these properties of like the edgy bad guy, but also like charming and likable. Like his performance here is so like Shakespearean, but also an idiot, which is such a weird, hard combo. Like, that feels like more than himbo.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
It feels like more elevated than that, but like the actual acting, like the dramatic acting, I'm like, oh, you are powerful and dark and creepy, but then he's just kind of silly when he's like, wait, this plan doesn't make any sense. I don't give a shit.
I hate
it. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
He's really nailing all of it.
It's somehow modern and classic at the same time. Yeah, it's very interesting. It is. Yeah, it's a real special performance that he gives. Yeah, and I think Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. does a very good job as well for a face actor who I think, if I'm going to be honest, was cast to play him on camera, and clearly they cast him to play him on camera, but he also does a good job of playing it as a voice character.
Yeah, most of these castings is the rare castings where I'm like, because these are all face actors, I'm like, was this supposed to be a live action show originally?
Well, Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. is also supposed to be one of the leads of the next season of Peacemaker.
Okay, this makes more sense of why there are so many face actors, because then you can bring them into movies and TV shows, and it's like, yes, that sounds like The Bride.
But I actually don't think it matters too much. Well, yeah, because of the CGI and stuff. But Frank Grillo will be playing
a human.
will be a human face on camera.
Yeah, I guess if Dr. Phosphorus comes back, it doesn't matter if Alan Tudyk is there or not.
It'll matter if his voice is there. Because
Yeah,
he's Alan
his voice
Tudyk.
is there, but he doesn't physically need to be there.
And on a goof note, I gotta say, Frank Grillo is the most comic book ass human being's name.
Yeah.
Every time I remember his face and think of him as an actor, I'm like, yeah, it's Frank Grillo. And then literally, here's what happens every time in my head. I go, that's Frank Grillo. And I stop and go, no, that was his character's name in Captain America. His human name isn't Frank Grillo. His human name is Crossbones? Fuck, no, that can't be right either. Like, it doesn't feel like it should be a real human's name. It's such a, like, Frank Grillo walked through the wall into a room.
Yeah, it's very Frank Grillo should have been the character and not Rumlow in Captain America.
Yes.
Rick Flag is a normaler name than Frank Grillo. Yeah, it's one of those things where when you see it on IMDb, you're like, which one was the character? Like, if it's an actor you don't know very well, you're like, I don't know which name is the character.
Frank Grillo is Dave Rumlow. What? And I actually can't remember Rumlow's first name, but whatever.
I think it was Dave, but that's a fun one.
But I think it's like a plain first name.
It's a plain first
It's
name.
a Frank
It's not.
adjacent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Frank Grillo is Frank Rumlow.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, which one is which?
Which one is which? Here's a weird one. I know we're on positives. And
Okay.
I will say...
I'm happy to switch to...
No, we're still on voices.
Okay.
Because I will say, Viola Davis is one of the greatest actresses alive. So I don't know if she doesn't know how to do voice work or just does not give a shit right now. Because she is just reading lines. And I know that's her Waller is very straightforward and flat, but like she also was given so much exposition to fucking say. So that's also part of it.
I also think that as much as the animation on this show is generally good, they also animated her shittily. I'm going to say that.
She's like really stiff and like she's not the loosest person in the world.
But like on camera, she has like gravitas and authority. And in this show, it's like she is animated as like her shirt is wearing her. She has such little gravitas that she's not even wearing a shirt.
Am I wrong that at one point she had like a flowery scarf on? And I'm like, Amanda Waller at work?
Yeah.
At the Suicide Squad facility? Or a flowery scarf?
She was drawn frumpy.
Yes.
Which is not how I could call Viola Davis on camera in any.
No.
I've never been like, what a frumpy character.
No, I've been like, what a scary woman.
Yes.
What an authoritative figure.
Yeah, her posture's wrong. The clothes are wrong.
And maybe
it's
that's
just
feeding
hunched
into,
and it's.
And maybe that's feeding into my read of her like voice acting, because she was really just not doing anything.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion either way on her vocal performance, but I was very mad that I was like, this kind of actually looks like a kid pretending to be Viola Davis, pretending to be a character is how it's animated. I'm like, this feels like if halfway through the season they were like, Clayface is pretending to be Amanda Waller, it actually would have made more sense to me.
That would have been a great little twist.
And
we would have been like, oh, they foreshadowed it with the frumpiness.
But the embodiment wasn't there, which is wild for a show that like the animation generally is very sharp, and like Frankenstein and The Bride both feel heavy and strong, and Dr. Phosphorus's like visceral burning feels like weighted and hot, and like everything actually has the elements and also the like physical elements and the performative elements, but not her.
And also like everything feels weighted. Like when people get shot with lasers, it's very bloody and gory, which I actually don't have a problem with. I thought it was kind of cool most of the time. I was like, oh, that guy's head just completely gone. That's great.
I loved every version of Dr. Phosphorus burning through a person.
Oh my god, when he took the guy's jaw off.
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah, his burning stuff. Very, very fun. So yeah, the animation of fight scenes, I think the montages were my favorite, because they would do these really fun transitions, especially with like The Bride and Frankenstein when they were going through like different decades.
Yes, the stalking through decades was very visually
G.I.
cool.
Robot also had a great montage transition where he's like shooting the guards in modern day to shooting the Nazis in the past, and I was like, these transitions actually really slap the music that's playing the direction of how this is playing out. So yeah, I think overall the animation's actually pretty phenomenal. And I think the direction and like where they went and directing of the show is actually very good.
Yeah. Yeah, very intentful, very cool.
Very intentful, very cool.
Well,
We've been kind. That's 20 minutes of kind right there.
I think that, that was 10 minutes of spoiler free and 10 minutes of kind if we're being fair. But let's move on to a dunk. Would you like to take the lead on dunking, or shall I? How are you feeling?
Let's start with you, because I think let's build to my dunk.
Yeah.
Where shall you dunk, sir? Who are you going to posterize first?
I want to talk about the bigger picture DCU of this.
Okay.
Which is that I hate this. I hate this.
It's miserable.
It's miserable. It's miserable. It's up its own ass and its own canon. It is so...
Is it up its own ass, or is it up James Gunn's ass?
It's the same ass.
Yeah, it's the same ass.
It's the same ass.
I was watching this every time James Gunn showed up as a character in the opening credits. I was like, we're so far up his own ass he could see out of his mouth. This is absolutely insane what is happening here. The ego.
It sucks that he's in the opening credits. It sucks.
It sucks.
As an animated character, I'm like, I immediately when that came up, I was like, this doesn't feel like a great sign for where we're going.
No, do you think you're Stan Lee? This is the only person I would accept being animated in the opening as a writer or a creator with a property. Like, I'm like, if it was Stan Lee, I'd be like, yes, of course, you draw a Stan Lee in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, James Gunn, you've done one DC movie.
It's humorless as well.
Yes.
It is humorless.
There is no takedown of himself in this. The only humor, which is you kind of have to even read yourself, is like, it's kind of weird that he just writes on that little table that isn't tall enough.
Get a better table. You have money, table. James Gunn. But also, it's just like you're not this. You're not this as well. It's too pretentious. It's too self-serious. Not to drop a what would you change mid-episode, but if it was him typing and then every character from the show just shot and killed him violently, that at least would be a like, oh, you put yourself in, but it's not self-serious.
It's a Deadpool-esque, I'm going to go and shoot Ryan before he does Green Lantern. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that would be funny.
It's very pretentious. It's very self-serious. I loathe the fact that he is hand drawn in the opening credits.
Because the way that he types it and then he leans back like, I did such a good fucking job. This is so good.
It's you know what it is? smug. It's
is smug.
It's smug in a way that's very unlikable. It's not charming.
It's not charming
It's
in
smug.
any way. No.
It's smug.
We both are in agreement.
So that's the James Gunn of it. And then, to carry the James Gunn of it, the DCU of it all. So this was kind of positioned as James Gunn, is now in charge of the DC universe, and he's like, we're going to reset it. We've recast Superman. That's going to be the first major motion picture, and that's all very exciting. And it's like, what's James going to do? And it's like, we're taking it in a new direction. They introduced, not to get into too much corporate bullshit, but they're like, we're going to be doing DCU, and then there's going to be Elseworlds. And Robert Pattinson's Batman is an Elseworld. We're going to keep going with those movies, but he's not the connective Batman. We're going to do this stuff, and it's like
Joker 2 was technically an
Elseworld, where it's like these aren't connected, and I'm like, that's smart. Label some stuff that you want to finish up or is profitable as an Elseworld. The world still gets these creations, and you get to have a clean slate. And it's not a clean slate at all.
The slate's dirty as hell.
Everything James Gunn wrote stayed. And nothing else did, which is the most complicated, messy, shittiest to introduce anything way that you could possibly do this.
It is so wildly egotistical for him to have been handed this platter full of characters and directors and writers and creators, and because so many people made so many things in the DCEU, some of them good, some of them bad, and for him to be like, all of it's going into the trash, except what I made, which was one movie and one TV show. And I could even understand...
Which are still kind of connected to movies that don't exist now.
Yes, because it's... And, if we're recasting everyone, then, that makes the Harley Quinn thing weird. But I'm also, in a way, I'd be okay with that because I think Margot Robbie is such a great Harley Quinn. But, the fact that this ties into Peacemaker, which was a good show, but was a show and is the only one of the only thing you kept, is just so rude. It's so egotistical, and it makes everything, it's not a clean slate. It just makes it so complicated. And I'm just screaming during the first episode of this. I'm like, what do you mean Suicide Squad's still canon? Why are you
Starro came to Earth?
Why are you referencing things that happened in Peacemaker with the butterflies and the guy hurting his leg? And I have to know that for the rest of time?
And that Amanda Waller's daughter exposed the Task Force X suicide program to the public, so it's now illegal now to this and that. And I'm like, this is the world that we're going to be introduced to David Cornsweat's Superman in? Really? The world where Starro already exists and Amanda Waller's been outed and this has already been a thing that's happened and the butterflies invaded the Earth?
And also Peacemaker had the original Justice League in it? That's you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were there in the finale.
Mobo was in Peacemaker as Aquaman for some reason. It doesn't make it, and it doesn't have to make perfect sense. No. But if it's not going to make sense, it should at least be fun. And it's neither. It's not fun, and it doesn't make sense. It's stupid. It's convoluted. It is messy. It is pretentious. It's unwelcoming. It's also that terrible combination of unwelcoming to new audiences and alienating to old audiences. Anyone who is out there like Henry Cavill's my Superman, which I know a lot of people are of that opinion. A lot of people think that they're like, Henry Cavill's the guy. He is Superman. And it's like, that's gone. Fuck you. But all of the plot of Peacemaker you need to remember. I'm like, this is the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, you got rid of things people liked. And I liked Suicide Squad and Peacemaker quite a bit.
I agree.
But that's still just rude.
Yeah, just let it go.
Just let it go.
Let it go.
This is a different nerdy take because it reminds me very much of, I was at a panel at Fan Expo once and Dan Didio, the head of DC Comics, was talking. And it was a little bit after they did the New 52. And he was like, so to get new readers in, we're going to reboot every single title to #1. And that's going to be a clean slate. And he was going to reboot all of them except for Action Comics and Detective because they've been numbered since the 30s and 40s, the Superman and Batman. And the other execs were like, if you're going to do it, you have to fully clean slate it though. And he restarted Detective and Action Comics as number ones. And it made it in DC, the New 52 was a huge success. Whether people liked it or not, but they bought it. They were like, we get it. Clean slates for everyone.
Yeah.
You've got to clean slate it all if you're rebooting a universe.
You have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because it was wildly upsetting. And it's just it makes me so unexcited for Superman. I'm like, James
Same.
Gunn immediately got so far up his own ass of his greatness when he got asked to come back to Marvel after he got fired, and he was hugely successful with DC because the Suicide Squad was very liked. Or I don't know if the was there or not. I forget which one had it.
That was the.
He was the?
That was the.
He was the Suicide Squad. So I feel like this might be one of the times where I'm like, oh shit, they got rid of the oversight way too soon, probably. I really am not holding out a lot of hope for Superman at this point, especially considering, I mean, my dunk points, which are, this is way too dark a property to introduce the new DCU with.
I agree with that.
And I find it very upsetting.
Yep.
And I was hoping James Gunn had matured as a director.
Yep.
And a writer. And I was like, I think he's gotten a little bit better over the years.
I also thought the same.
And then I saw this and I was like, oh, oops, this better be him getting it out of his system before he did Superman.
In some form, yeah. Yeah, get it out of its system might be but it's also a thing that not a lot of people know about, but it's also up its own ass. And I had a conversation with a friend of the podcast and host of one of our partner podcasts, The Villain Was Right. I was having a conversation with Craig Fay earlier today, and I was like, we're covering Creature Commandos on the podcast. And he was like, what is that? And I was like, it's the first DCU thing. He was like, what? They're starting with an animated thing? So it's just like a random thing that's not connected to anything?
Oh,
and I was like,
connected.
no, it's very, and he was like, I hate it, and I'm not going to see Superman. Was his first, like, he was just like, I'm done. He was just like, I'm done.
You've lost me immediately.
Done. I'm immediately done with the pure concept of this. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And because, like, it would be so easy to just have said, actually, this is still connected to the old stuff. Superman's first. Like, why wouldn't Superman be first?
Why wouldn't Superman be first?
Superman.
Yep.
If you really need to connect it to the old stuff.
Yes.
Just leave it.
Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. A single movie has not yet come out in the DCU, and already they have two different actors who've been double cast as two characters who exist within the same universe.
What do you mean?
Nathan Fillion was someone in the Suicide Squad, and he's also Green Lantern. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. And then
I assume Sean Gunn's been someone?
Sean Gunn, I'm assuming, it just did mocap for everyone that needed to do mocap in that one. And then it's like Momoa as Mobo has already been Aquaman, which has been in Peacemaker, which is in canon. So not a single movie has come out, and already two actors have been double cast as different roles within the same universe. And that's dumb. That's dumb.
That's not the easy entry point that people are asking for. Yeah. But then again, maybe just because, as you said, Craig didn't know Creature Commandos existed, people going to see Superman won't be like, a lot of them won't know this is a thing.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. Unless Superman references it, which I'm willing to bet they will.
I bet he will.
I'm willing to bet that Superman is going to reference the contents of this.
Well, Superman seems to get, like, in the trailer, like, arrested or in a facility or whatever. So I'm like, Amanda Waller's probably there, and we're probably going to reference, because James Gunn's wife's definitely in it.
She is. I was
just
just about to say.
I can't believe she wasn't here.
I am very shocked that she was
sick?
not here. She must have been sick.
He loves casting her.
Because, if the other people have continued over, then for sure, as Agent Harcourt, she is going to be the connective tissue that we all were clearly clamoring for.
I don't even dislike her, but like his obsession with putting her in stuff is
yes, yeah, yeah. It's
what's nepotism for a wife?
Yeah, just I don't know. Favoritism, just favoritism, but it's also just pretentiousness. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that she is a good actor, and I think she's a good performer and does a good job of that character. And there's just something about it that I'm like, this is too much. Much in the sense that I'm like, every show does need a writer and director, and they don't need to be animated into the opening sequence. There's just a couple things where I'm like, this makes sense, but it's a bit much, James.
Yeah, it reminds me of like how everyone thinks their baby's the best baby. Or their dog is the best dog.
Sure.
And I'm like, I mean, that's a rude way to describe a woman. And I'm a woman and I said it, but I did. And I'm like, no, your wife's cool, but she's not that cool.
I thought you were using it to describe his own writing. For him to be like, well, mine's the only writing that ever worked.
I mean, Nicole Perlman had something to say. She co-wrote Guardians 1 and is the reason it's really, really good.
Yeah, that's the best one of the three.
Yeah, it's the best
writing-wise. Writing-wise.
We just rewatched one and it was incredible.
Yep, writing-wise is the best one of the three. Well, you also wanted to dunk on a few things. I'm feeling pretty good about what I had to say about the overall DCU.
I think I love
it's
everything
exhausting.
you've said.
I'm already exhausted, and if we weren't doing it for the podcast, I legitimately would not see Superman after watching this show.
Whoa!
I am at that point of like, because we've brought it up talking about Marvel movies, talking about like Deadpool and Wolverine and the past few things, where I'm just like, I want to hear a story just about where it's like it's tough to help people, and that's it. And I don't need it to be up its own ass. And I'm tired of the Marvel multiverse, and I don't want 900 things that are connected anymore. It's a novelty, but I would like a story, please. And then this is just coming right away in with like. It feels exactly what the problem with the last incarnation of the DCEU was, which is, what if we came in immediately trying to match Marvel's energy? And this is coming in to be like, what if we came in and it's a connected universe and the Green Lanterns are going to be in the Superman movie? And of course you remember when Amanda Waller was outed to the public in Peacemaker Season 2. And we're going to be doing all of that, with connective tissue everywhere. And it's like, it's the exact same problem of you're stepping on a treadmill that's already moving and trying to match Marvel's energy, but also no one likes Marvel's energy right now, so that's also a bad thing in that regard.
Yeah, they really have a chance to be. I can't believe you said you don't want to see Superman, because I was going to say I regret that we had agreed to do the entire first season, because I would have loved to have turned this off after episode 2 or 3 and not finished this show.
Yeah.
No matter what, I'm going to see Superman, because it's Superman. There's a cultural need there. But I get what you're saying completely about, like, it's already too much. Like, the trailers having, like, 18... I think Alan Tudyk plays Metamorpho in Superman.
So they have 3 characters who have been double cast.
I'm almost
They have 3
positive.
characters who've been double cast.
And
I'm sure Sean Gunn is playing someone in there as well.
He's definitely in there.
So let's just round it to 4 characters. Definitely have been double cast.
And there's been 2 things out so far.
Yes.
It's not even out.
Not even out.
Not even out. So yeah, pretty exhausting. Not the clean slate we were promised. To stay on the negative, I'm really disappointed in James Gunn for this show, because there is so much sexual assault, sexual violence, sexual threats in this, and like not just like in 4 different ways, 4 different characters experiencing it in 4 different ways, not just like one episode. Just forget it.
Or like this is very important to one character's story, and while it might be difficult for a viewer to experience, it is relevant and we have something to say, whether that be comedic or dramatic. It's not just one instance of relevance and importance.
It was not. No, it was just a ongoing theme of, I think it's kind of funny when there's sexual content, and I don't care if it's consensual or aggressive or pushy, because it's the princess being wildly sexual aggressive to Rick Flag Sr., which is still a sexual violence if it's girl on guy. Don't come at me. And she's like, she shows up naked in his room and just tries to jump him, and I'm wildly uncomfortable, and I don't like.
And he
seems wildly uncomfortable,
and he attempts to decline her, and it keeps
over
going
and over again. So
but that's the comedy, is that he's a guy, you see.
Whoa,
Yeah.
and she's naked, and it turns out she doesn't even. And I was almost willing to forgive it, because like we were getting through the plot of like what's going on with this princess, and I'm like, maybe she's kind of Poison Ivy-esque, and after you have sex with her, you're like controlled by her or something. She seems so desperate.
Or even just like a classic honeypot, which we do kind of find out as the story goes on that this was part of her intention to be like, which is kind of gray and cloudy how that even makes any sense at all.
When he was declining her so harshly.
Yes, yes. But I understand that if you have evil intentions, that this is something that you had to do to get him wrapped up. And maybe if it was one. I see what you're saying.
No,
if it was one.
If it was one. But then we continue on. The bride has sex with Victor Frankenstein when she is not mentally capable of consenting to this. She can't say the word lemonade at the time when they start having sex. And that's her dad. And also, that's her dad. So that happens. The 3rd episode, the soldiers that Cersei sends to kill the princess grab her, and before they kill her, they're like, we should rape her. That was the worst one.
And that was the joke.
That was the joke.
joke.
You know, then you can kill those guys indiscriminately, but we killed everyone indiscriminately in this show. You didn't need to add that. And I just don't think, I mean, I know this isn't towards you. I just don't think some writers, clearly James Gunn and other men, realize how upsetting this is in a thing that wipes all humor away. Any threat of sexual violence is just like, it's not fun now. It's ruined every episode. And then a couple episodes would go by without anything, and I'd be like, all right, maybe I can have fun again, and here we go again. Because then we go to the house full of prostitutes, and then the guys break in, and they're like, we're going to beat you up and not pay for sex and probably just rape you as well. And then they need to be saved by the bride, even though I'm like, what do they normally do? They must have guns. This is rude to the prostitutes.
Yes.
Who definitely have a plan for when guys don't pay them.
They had to escalate it to be like, these guys now have superpowers.
They did have to escalate it.
Yeah,
but it was still
that's
rude.
a reason that the bride has to get involved.
It was
It's
still
like,
rude
okay.
to these girls. I'm like, they're professionals.
Yeah.
They've been through this.
Yeah.
So it was just, it's wildly upsetting. I'm wildly disappointed in James Gunn. I'm disappointed DC let him have this incredibly dark content in 4 out of 7 episodes of their premiere show in the DCU. It's upsetting. It's not fun. I would have turned it off episodes and episodes ago. I'm worried about the tone of the entire DCU if this is your appetizer of what's to come. And I think you need to do better. I thought you had done better because I think the Suicide Squad, the female characters were actually like, great. Nothing weird happened to them. I was like, oh, he's gotten over a lot of this like immature sexuality that he liked in, I forget what the movie was with the guy from The Office, what that one was called. That was just terrible.
I think that was just called Super.
Was it just called Super?
I believe that was called Super.
Just like terrible sexual content in that. But we're like, oh, I think he's grown. And then he was like, no, they gave me free reign and I decided I hadn't.
And like, we also thought that he had grown as well because the recurring theme of literally everything that he creates, from Super, Brightburn, Guardians of the Galaxy, or whatever he does, the theme of everything he creates is, I used to be a piece of shit, but I'm trying not to be. And I'm going to be sometimes a piece of shit, but I'm trying. And I think that if I try really hard, I can not be a piece of shit most of the time. And I'm like, all of his stories are some version of his own story. Of the like, I used to be an edgelord. I used to be someone who ruffled feathers because I thought that was fun and entertaining. And now I need to hold myself to a higher standard now that I've been surrounded by people that I love. I am a director who almost got canceled for some shit that he used to say. And everyone who loves him now was like, he's not that guy anymore. And all of his stories, Peacemaker as well, is the story of exactly that guy. It is all autobiographical stories of himself. And it's like, you're really trying. And this absolutely takes 9 steps back.
I love what you're saying about what he used to write, because I would say the theme of this, Creature Commandos, which he wrote every episode of, is I used to be a nice person, and now I'm a piece of shit because people were mean to me. Literally, the backstory of every Creature Commando is the bride was a nice person who was just trying to get along in the world. Frankenstein killed her dad and then chased her around, and now she's jaded. Nina was a very nice person. The cops killed her dad, and now she's on the Suicide Squad. Dr. Phosphorus was trying to cure cancer, and he got thrown into his cancer machine, and now I'm a bad person because the world was mean to me. It is the story over and over again of people who were nice, and then someone was mean to them. They're like, well, fuck it. And I feel like maybe that's what James Gunn's thinking now.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like that's that seems to be the track.
And I think he's not the one to tell that. Because I think that what you were describing is also a classic monster theme. To be like, when the world treats you like a monster, you become one. Like when you let the mob take control, then of course you are going to be guilty of whatever the mob tells you that you're guilty of. And that is a classic monster theme, but it is one that goes absolutely antithetical to the stories that James has been good at telling prior. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I feel like even in a monster movie, usually at the end it's like, there was some redeeming quality of the monster. But even in this show, it's like, no, they just kind of unregrettably kill.
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool with it, all the characters who survived.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny, and it can be fun. It can work a little bit. Like, G.I. Robot not only wanted to kill Nazis and not caring.
It
like,
works.
He's a robot.
G.I. Robot slams.
Rules.
Yeah, G.I. Robot rules.
The negative of this show is that you killed him in episode 3 and he stayed dead the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Huge negative.
Huge negative.
G.I. Robot slaps.
Absolutely slaps.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Give me more characters who just always ask if they can kill Nazis and find Nazis and kill them.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the themes are getting murky over here.
The themes are murky, and the problematic stuff is messy, especially around sexual assault and sexual violence. Particularly because it is not thematic and it's not comedic, and it's sometimes played as neither or just comedic, and it doesn't work. Where it's just like the brothel scenario, where it's like
Brothel. That's the word I want.
Yeah.
Dang, no, it was a good word.
Where those guys come in and they refuse to pay, and then now they're getting violent, and the bride steps in and kind of takes care of this scenario. That is something where it's like, okay, but what does this tell us about the bride? And I don't feel like it tells us anything. And I'm like, what's the theme of this scene? How does it tie into the episode? And it's really just some stuff that happens. So it's really just kind of entertainment to fill time. And there's lots of ways to do that. You know what I mean? Like, there's slapsticky ways to do that. There are also ways to do cartoonish violence to fill the time. Mm-hmm. But cartoonish sexual violence to fill the time it doesn't work in any regard, and it's problematic, and it's bad.
No, it's not what anyone's hankering for. It's not what the world needs right now. Why would you want to put this out there as your introduction to the DCU or your introduction to anything? Especially but especially because it's a cartoon. So it's like, I don't expect that in cartoons, and I don't want it in live action either, but it just felt like it started happening in a way that I'm like, oh, I didn't feel like this was that kind of cartoon.
Yeah.
The vibes weren't there.
It just felt classic edgelordy to be like, oh, are you offended? It was just like,
Yeah.
But
and it can't, I'm not saying you can never have it. I think The Boys is an almost perfect show. And it has sexual violence
of
and
problems
sexual
there.
problems.
But that is the point.
That's the point.
The conversation around that is the point in many regards.
So I'm not saying never, and it's never good, but you have to have thought.
Yes.
And purpose.
Or at least a rarity, a rare loss of thought as well. Because as we kind of talked about at the beginning of this, I think if there was only one instance of the 4 or 5 instances that happen in this show, it would be maybe we'd brush past it. Maybe we'd be having a conversation similar to this to be like, that was a little problematic, or
But it was only happened
What did that mean? Is it my fault that I didn't understand that meant something? Was there a second layer to the joke I didn't get? We might take ownership over not understanding it, or we might kind of grant leniency for a one-time problematic thing. But to consistently be messy in the same regard is when it becomes well, I don't like this. I don't like what we're doing here.
Yeah. And maybe to move on to slightly more lighthearted messy, I would also just say, even all of the stuff I just set aside, the show's not very funny.
It's not too. It has moments.
It has moments.
G.I. Robot has a few.
G.I. Robots
Robots
David
Are You
Harbour.
Nazis are always hits, and David Harbour really knows how to sell every line.
Sells everything. But overall, it's just kind of I think this story's boring when it's not in flashbacks. I think the flashbacks are the most interesting thing in the show.
The flashbacks do work as much as we criticize problematic aspects of the writing, which is very reasonable. I think that structurally a lot of it works. It does invoke an emotional reaction out of me. That emotion that it invokes is never where I keep my joy, but I'm definitely I am upset and engaged in a good way for a lot of these, whether it's the backstory of Weasel getting tragically pinned for a thing, or Dr. Phosphorus losing his family. These are beautiful little emotional stories where I feel for these characters, and I'm sad and upset and thoughtful, and it is engaging writing, I think.
I will say I agree. Yeah, I think the backstories are very engaging. I think the present day story is kind of nothing for the most part, but every time we did a backstory, I'd be like, man, I can't wait to see this character do more in the present day. And they almost never get to do more after their backstory is over. But every backstory really was even Frankenstein's, when he kills the old woman he was living with, who's just crying. It's upsetting, and you're right, it's not where you keep joy, but it does evoke pure emotion of you're no, I was trusting that he loved her, and I feel an actual betrayal that's purposeful. That's the point of the writing, to be Frankenstein, fuck you. Fuck you, Frankenstein. How dare you kill this old lady? She was so nice to you. So yeah, the backstories do definitely evoke emotion. I wouldn't mind if, I find it weird that this isn't 8 episodes, because I wouldn't have minded if the final episode had no flashbacks and they're all just oh, we know them all now.
Yeah, it does feel like it is missing something there.
Yeah, it feels, and also 7 episodes is such a weird number of episodes. So I wouldn't mind if there was a non-flashback episode of and now you're caught up, and here's the Creature Commandos.
I get that.
Because I feel like I just got to know them, and then like the show was kind of over.
And then there's also like the cleanliness as well of like talking about the flashback, like the writing works better in the flashbacks. Also because the flashbacks don't try to connect to broader DC James Gunn projects.
No, they're just their own thing.
Everything in the present is like, it's Steve Agee, member of Argus, who hurt himself in the butterfly alien attack, and we're making jokes about that. And I'm like, I hate this, and I like him. I like him as an actor, and I hate this.
I also like him.
I like him. I want to see him in everything, and I still somehow hate this. Whereas in the, you flash back to the past, and it's like, here's Frankenstein staying with a blind woman, and that's the story. That is it. The blind woman's not related to Aquaman. The shed isn't built by Argus. At no point did Black Adam come down, and at no point was Shazam the lightning that awoken the bride. None of it fucking matters in the past.
Oh, but what if Shazam was the lightning that awoken
that would create
the
a special The Bride. But yeah, they're just beautiful little stories. They all feel like single issue comic books where it's just like, fuck yeah, that's a story.
Yeah, the backstories are a story.
A story. A story.
I'll totally agree with that.
Yeah.
There's a few loose ends that I find weird. I'm like, that necklace was nothing. Don't know what was up with that. I still don't understand what Weasel is. His backstory didn't explain it.
I kind of like that. That it's just like, it's Weasel.
We have no idea what
it's just Weasel.
I just feel like he's really not sentient.
I agree.
I don't think he knows there's a bomb in his head.
No.
No. Well, that seems to defy the purpose of the Suicide Squad of putting bombs in their head.
That's the comedy. This one I'll agree that I'll disagree. That's funny. That's funny. He does not know.
I don't think I'm not.
It is like putting it is like putting a bomb in the head of a golden retriever and being like, if you don't stop Superman, it doesn't know. It does, but does it want to help? Yes.
But it doesn't lean into the comedy of that, is what I'm saying.
I'm laughing. I love it.
I just think it needs to be more clear if he has sentience or not. Because, yeah, I'm like, you might as well just have, like, a prison full of lions.
Right. Yes, that's also true.
If you're like, this very smart animal or this like mildly smart animal is really strong. I'm like, we have lots of strong animals. We have elephants, we have lions, we have cougars. Yeah. Weasel's not special because he can stand on 2 legs.
But this whole program's a mess. And that's the comedy.
It is a mess. Nina didn't even do a crime.
No, she never did a crime.
She's a human being with a birth certificate and everything.
Yes.
She's just a regular human who got a little surgery.
Yeah, but I guess they don't know that because her father died and never actually got to vouch for her or show a birth certificate.
She can
talk. Yeah, but she has been put aside. But yeah, she never did a crime.
School.
She never did a crime.
She absolutely never did a crime unless you just can't swim in those lakes. Trespassing.
That was how Argus got you.
You got to kill the princess of Pornicovia because you swam in the lake.
Yeah. So just that.
She didn't have any powers or anything, that princess.
Just swimming.
No, I meant the princess.
Oh, the princess. Oh.
Yeah.
Nina just swimming.
No, just swimming, not water control, not.
No, and even Amanda Waller was like, she's a very smart person, and if you get her near water, she's great. And I'm like, she just kind of swam pretty good. Yeah. Like, I honestly think that like the bride might not need to breathe and could possibly do I don't know what a waterlogged Frankenstein would do.
I think Dr. Foster could have just touched the water and she probably would have burned to death.
Boiled to death, yeah.
He could have boiled her pretty
Yeah, I think he
quick.
could have done that. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Also there was like literally no guards. She could have just shot her with a gun.
Chill and easy. Yeah, you also could have just used gun.
Yeah, the bride had a gun.
Gun is pretty good.
The princess was right there.
Yeah, so
yeah, the reveal that she didn't have any powers was weird because her eyes started to glow when she killed Nina.
I also saw that.
But then the bride just shot her with a gun and she seems to be dead. And I also don't know how she was going to take over the world.
I don't even understand what the general evil plot was here because she was going to take over the world, which Cersei did see.
So Cersei wasn't lying.
Cersei was telling the truth.
Yes.
But then the doctor who comes to confirm that Cersei is telling the truth, the princess has that doctor killed and Clayface replace her so that she agrees with Cersei. But wouldn't the doctor have always agreed with Cersei because Cersei was telling the truth?
The doctor wasn't killed until after she talked to Waller.
Okay.
So the doctor went and talked to Waller and agreed that Cersei was telling the truth. And then the princess replaced her to be like, oh, we need to make it look like she was lying. And she didn't agree.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's complicated.
Yeah, that's convoluted.
Yeah, it's convoluted as hell.
Okay.
And like, why would Clayface do it? How did you know Clayface? So many more questions. How were you going to take over the world?
I guess Clayface just did it for money.
He likes money, I guess.
Yeah.
Likes to just go talk about lesbians at school and bother people.
Just bother people.
Yeah. Classic Clayface.
I will say one joke that I do consistently find funny. I am a sucker for it in every iteration. Every time it shows up in an animated project, it always makes me laugh when there is real human footage inside of an animated thing. I don't know why. I know it's a cheap joke, but it always makes me giggle, and I love it 100% of the time it's done.
I completely agree.
Thank you.
I completely agree. I think they do it twice here.
I think twice with footage and then once with the video game Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yes, the video
which,
game
while
Mortal Kombat.
technically not real life footage, it's footage of the real world video game Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's always funny. I don't know why, because they also did it in the most recent Ninja Turtles movie. They were watching Ferris Bueller.
Yeah,
and so
funny.
So watching the animated Ninja Turtles watch the
Ferris
actual
Bueller.
Ferris Bueller is just really funny.
That's comedy.
It's comedy gold, and it's cheap because you don't even have to. It doesn't matter what you play.
Yeah, well, you got to pay for the
anything.
licensing, so I don't know.
But you don't have to write a joke.
A cheap laugh.
You don't have to be like, what's a funny thing to watch? Like anything with live people.
Anything.
It's going to be
It's
funny.
always funny.
You're going to break the fourth wall, and they're going to be like, whoa, the fourth wall just fell down.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is like, it's this, there are two things that I will always find funny, and it's coming from like a Ren and Stimpy era of me watching cartoons, where it is cutting to real footage or cutting to hyper-realistic animation for an ultra close-up.
Oh, Ren and Stimpy love that.
Which Ren and Stimpy also loved. And Teen Titans Go used to do that quite a bit as well, where it's like, do you think this cut got infected? And then it's like a microscopic close-up of like the most hideous infection possible.
There's pus.
But it's still hand-drawn, but it's like, it goes from Teen Titans Go to like an Alex Ross drawing of what an infection looks like. And that's very nice.
I feel like Rocco's Modern Life also used to do it.
Oh, I never watched a lot of that.
Oh, I liked Rocco's Modern Life. It was like Ren and Stimpy that was mature.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They're not like completely mature, but not so immature.
Yes.
So I was more of a Rocco's Modern Life.
Oh, you were more
girl.
of a Rocco lady.
I
liked the booger jokes of Ren and Stimpy.
I like the problematic working conditions of Rocco's Modern Life. It was an anti-capitalist message. Actually, it genuinely was, now that I look back on it.
Oh.
Maybe I was a little pretentious as a child.
I might have to go dip my toe into some Rocco's Modern Life. Okay.
I mean, Modern Life is like 30 years old now. How modern is it? We'll see if anything changed.
We'll see.
I'm actually genuinely curious to
Did the
dip
world
back
change?
into Rocco's Modern Life.
Well, on that note, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss about season 1 of Creature Commandos? I've covered some of the broader strokes that I definitely wanted to get through, but
those are most of my big ones. Yeah, I think the connected DCEU stuff sucks. Even aside from that, the exposition dumps were wildly heavy at certain points. Cersei never has a payoff. They can't decide if her name is Cersei or Cersei. That was really because the first couple episodes they were like Cersei, and we're like, oh, is that how you pronounce that name? And the last like 4 episodes they changed it to Cersei. So I don't know if they finally watched Game of Thrones or something. And we're like, oh shit, we've been saying it wrong.
We were being pretentious. I don't know what it was, and of course you were.
Of course you were.
Of course you were.
And then you changed it. So no, that's my Creature Commandos. I feel good. Feel my chest is lifted. I'm glad I don't have to watch it anymore. God, we'll see about Superman.
Yeah, I'm genuinely bummed going into Superman after this.
That is really just the worst outcome for a thing that wasn't Superman.
Yeah,
Batman was here for a quick second.
And that also establishes that Batman already pre-exists now in James Gunn's universe. So does the world knows about the Amazon, Themyscira.
Yeah, they know about Themyscira, but I guess they've never been there.
But they know of Cersei and
Cersei?
Cersei. I don't know if they know Wonder Woman, if they said that.
They didn't say her at all. No.
Okay. okay, but they know about Themyscira, the general public does in this world. So we've been visited by aliens. Starro did attack. There was also a secret butterfly invasion. Argus still exists. Amanda Waller's daughter outed her to the public, ruining the reputation of Task Force X / the Suicide Squad. Batman exists, and the world knows about Themyscira. These are just a handful of the hand wavings that are going on. Genuinely bummed going into Superman. Well, let's go into the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change. So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we'll remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you prefer to get your podcasts in visual form, we now post the full episodes on our YouTube channel at From Superheroes. So you can also watch it over there, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment on the page over there. Those are all free ways to support the podcast and to make sure that you are getting our content in the best way possible. If you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on our Patreon page, which has lots of cool bonuses.
It's got lots of cool bonuses. At the $3 level, you can get these episodes early and ad-free. It's very fun when we do new releases. You can find out before Monday if you should go check it out that weekend. And also, there's just no ads, and that's just always fun. Yeah, who doesn't like that?
Who doesn't like that?
Who doesn't like that? We don't want to make you listen to ads, so at $3 you don't have to. And at the $10 level, you get an extra episode of this podcast every single month, and also immediate access to the backlog. So also you get so many episodes of this podcast.
All the previous bonus episodes of the podcast. And also, if there's just a single bonus episode that you want to listen to, you can purchase individual bonus episodes at $5. Lots of cool options over on our Patreon page, depending on what is in your budget. And as well, if you sign up for a monthly patronage, then you can also cancel or change your level on any given month. And if you sign up for 1 year, you get 1 month free. So different cool options. All of the money goes right to us to help support the network, make sure this is our full-time job, and keep these episodes going up on time. So check all that out over on our Patreon page, patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. Now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Diana, what would you change?
I think these changes will be shocking, and no one will see them coming.
Let me just take a big sip of my drink.
Yeah. No sex stuff. The obvious ones after what we just talked about are no sex stuff. None of this was necessary in any way. Maybe I'd let you keep one James Gunn. And it would probably be The Bride, because that one makes the most sense of, like, just it did actually relate to her story. Yeah, no sex stuff. Hated all of that. It was inappropriate. People can have sex, not like this. Don't like that. We are not going to connect it to the DCU. This is a blank slate. Get all that out of there. Those are the obvious changes that we think we both agree on. My change other than that, which would just be if this was just normal and good, what my normal change would be. This princess has superpowers that are revealed in the final episode, and then there's a big fight. So we actually know what we were trying to stop this whole time. So I think when Nina goes to kill her because also this woman's just she's such an idiot if she doesn't. She's walking around. She's like, I'm going to go swim in the pool while assassins are out trying to kill me. And she's just never in the panic room. And she's always in a little slip of a dress and heels. And she's just an idiot. She's just a regular human, it turns out. That's dumb. I hate it. I don't know how she's going to take over the world. I think none of this works. So she actually has superpowers. They come to life when Nina tries to kill her in the water. And then we actually have a big battle. And it's revealed, this is how I was going to take over the world. I don't know what the powers are. I don't care. Frankenstein's probably hurt during that part. So he can actually still be kind of involved. He seems to go away pretty quickly. And we actually get a win for the Commandos. They're we're still bad people, but we did save the world. Definitely, for sure. And there was a big fight, and it was fun, and we had cool stuff going on. So that's kind of what I want to see, because it would also make me feel better about why the princess acted these ways, and instead she was just a ditzy woman, apparently. None of it was for a reason, or because she knew she couldn't be killed. She was just a moron. So I don't believe she'd ever take over the world. So that ruins a lot of it for me. So those are my big changes. She actually has powers. We have a big fight at the end, along with the other stuff. Andrew, what would you change about Creature Commandos?
I love that. I agree with all of that. I think that is very fun. Yeah. Give her powers. That gives them purpose. Definitely remove all the problematic stuff. Let's get that the hell out of here. I would say for my really like focus in change. It would be one that you kind of breezed across as one of the quick ones, which I agree with, which is just this is a fresh start. Not only for this fact that it's like, well, it's too pretentious and up its own ass, and you can't only think that the things that only you wrote are worthy of keeping. Aside from all of the like the meta business pretentious conversation of it all, there is good stories here, as we discussed with the flashbacks, when it doesn't have to do with the broader stuff. This is really easy to make not about the bigger picture stuff. This is 4 monsters who go on... 5?
5 until GI dies, yeah.
Yeah. 5 monsters that go on an adventure, who all have their own individual backstory that is not connected to anything else, and then they go on an adventure to stop an evil princess. It is the simplest thing to just not have Amanda Waller walk into a room expositing about how her daughter turned her over and blah, 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 blah. And it's easy to have Frank Grillo just play Rick Flag again and not mention that his son was shot and killed by whoever the fuck Idris Elba played. Like, it's so easy to just, if you just don't do that, this is a standalone story and it doesn't get in its own way. Most of it works. Yeah, you can go in there and be like, find all references to previous James Gunn projects, delete. And I think you've only lost like 5 minutes off each episode, and it makes more sense.
It's so much easier to watch that way.
It's a tiniest amount of tightening up.
Yeah.
The tiniest amount.
Because, yeah, it's exhausting. It's 5 minutes out of 7 episodes, and it's exhausting. You look so tired every time you talk about it already.
Yeah.
And we're on the first entry of a new DCU.
So that's my big change. Not only do I think it should be a fresh start, I think it's such a wasted potential because it was so easy to be self-contained. It was so easy to not reference other stuff if you just set out to do that.
Sometimes you just got to kill your darlings, James.
You've got to kill your darlings.
You've got to. I'm a writer. I've killed a bunch of darlings.
Writing is editing.
Writing is a lot of editing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
and
but
editing involves acknowledging that you don't need what you wrote yesterday.
I know you tore the backspace button off your keyboard, but you got to put it back on, James. I know you got rid of it.
Well, when he's writing everything personally, apparently.
It's insane that he wrote and directed both the first 2 things.
Yes.
No wonder it's taking so long to do a bunch of projects.
And the new season of Peacemaker.
Oh, yes, I forgot I did that.
So he wrote 2 seasons of television and a movie, and he's just like, yeah, I did it all alone. And I'm like, either, 1, you are a lunatic, and yes, you tore the backspace button off your keyboard, and you think that everything that you write is gold. Or, potentially, that is a lie, and there are some ghostwriters and other people who are not getting the credit that they deserve. Or 3, it's all going to be dribble. Like, I think
it's going to be 3.
We'll see, because one person cannot turn out that kind of creative output.
Mm-hmm. Not when they're also busy, like, he directed Superman.
I don't know. I'm tired.
We're tired.
Let's get out of here.
Doesn't look good for Superman.
Let's get out of here. That's going to do it for us this week on Creature Commandos. Next week on the podcast, we did Frankenstein last week, kind of talking about other creatures. Next week, we're going to talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula, just to have fun.
We're just creaturing it up.
Let's just creature it up.
Good creatures.
Let's talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula next week on the podcast. So we'll be talking about that next week. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, I'm online most places, Instagram and Blue Sky predominantly. I am at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Blue Sky and Tumblr at Words of Diana, and Instagram I'm Pics of Diana.
And you can find us most places at From Superheroes, and check out everything we create over on our website, fromsuperheroes.com, and we'll talk to you all next week.
Bye.